This is the deepest part of the Borneo rainforest, an untamed wilderness untouched by human exploitation, and a forbidden zone that humans dare not easily venture into. It is inhabited by many terrifying unknown creatures, and it is rumored that an extremely rare blood red flower grows here. A chemical component within it can extend the lifespan of cells, meaning it has the effect of slowing down aging, and might even preserve youth. However, its dormancy period lasts as long as 7 years, while its blooming period is only 1 week. Due to the urgency, 6 ambitious young scientists have temporarily formed an expedition team. They decided to head to the Borneo rainforest together to unveil the mystery of the blood blue flower. But before they even set off, they encountered a problem. Due to the treacherous geographical environment of the Borneo rainforest, and the fact that it was the rainy season, no boats dared to take them across. After inquiring from various sources, they found Captain Jack. Jack initially wanted to refuse outright, but the offer was too tempting. Driven by money, Jack decided to take the risk. Thus, Jack, along with his assistant Longhair and the expedition team, a total of 8 people, set off on the Mary towards the deepest part of the Borneo rainforest. However, they did not know what price they would pay for this adventure. The Mary had just entered the forbidden zone. A major incident occurred. Fortunately, the beautiful one was familiar with swimming, which helped resolve the crisis. Once everyone saw she was safe and sound, they finally relaxed, and even started teasing her, completely unaware that danger was quietly approaching. Just as the beautiful one was about to grab a stick, a fierce beast from the water suddenly launched an attack on her. Seeing this, Jack hurriedly jumped into the water and managed to save the beautiful one just in time, but he then became the target of the crocodile's attack. Jack had no choice but to engage in a life-and-death struggle with it. For a moment, Jack and the crocodile sank into the water, and everything went silent. Watching the calm water surface, everyone panicked, but moments later, Jack emerged from the water. Everyone was astonished, not expecting Jack to have defeated the fierce crocodile. The Mary continued on its journey. However, this encounter did not make them realize the dangers here. That night, they encountered bad weather, and Jack found the leader, Little Handsome, to inform him of the trouble. The water level was rising rapidly, making navigation difficult, and they needed to turn back to find another river channel. But Little Handsome didn't want to do that, as it might mean missing the blooming period of the snow orchids, and he wanted to shorten the time. Little Handsome offered Jack a high price to forcefully cross the river. So, under the temptation of money, Jack and Little Handsome reached an agreement without telling anyone. The next morning, Jack was startled awake by a loud noise. He quickly got up and looked around, discovering that the river had flooded, and the banks were completely out of sight. Jack instructed Longhair to turn back immediately, but it was now difficult to find a fork in the river. At that moment, another loud noise was heard, as if they had hit something, and Longhair suddenly realized that the boat was stuck. Jack finally realized the seriousness of the situation. However, what made him even more desperate was that the engine had also malfunctioned. Now, the Mary could only drift with the current. Shortly after, everyone was horrified to discover that there was a sheer cliff ahead, and so, the Mary plunged down from the sheer cliff. Fortunately, this accident did not result in any casualties. This ordeal left the expedition team very dissatisfied with Jack, leading to a big argument. Xiao Shuai loudly scolded them, and after calming down, they realized that there was no point in saying more, as things had already come to this. They could only search for usable supplies along the shore. They found a map, 2 machetes, and a satellite phone. Just when everyone was at a loss, Jack suddenly remembered that he had a friend who operated a boat on the Toku River and could be contacted. They arranged a meeting point to pick them up. This way, they could continue searching for the blood blue flower, but it would take them 1 or 2 days to reach the meeting point from here. Time was pressing, so after a brief rest, everyone set off. Thus, Jack led the way with a machete, and the others followed closely behind. They didn't know how long they had been walking when they encountered another problem. Ahead of them, the open space had no path, and to get across, they would have to risk crossing the river. In this unfamiliar water, everyone was on edge because they didn't know what might be lurking in the river. Just then, a monkey in the tree suddenly let out a sharp cry. Did it see something that frightened it? Immediately, Big Mouth also started screaming in panic, explaining that he seemed to have bumped into something. Everyone was thrown into a panic by his actions. Jack reassured them, suggesting it might have been a fish in the water. With anxious hearts, they continued forward, but as expected, the unexpected happened. Who narrowly escaped were already mentally shattered. This 20-meter-long giant python had completely overturned their understanding. To stabilize everyone's emotions, Jack told them that there was no immediate danger, because snakes have a strong territorial instinct. If a giant python appears in this area, the chance of encountering another one within a few kilometers is almost 0. And this giant python is now full. It needs a few days to digest. So for the time being, this giant python won't have any interest in them. The most urgent task now is to get to the rendezvous point, and once the boat arrives, they can leave here. However, things didn't go as planned. Just as they approached the rendezvous point, a deafening explosion caught their attention, and everyone hurried over to check it out. Everyone could only search for usable supplies, praying to find a satellite phone, but after a thorough search, they found nothing. Just when they were at their wits' end, Chang Mao unexpectedly discovered 2 roasted fish by the sea. He speculated that there must be indigenous people living nearby, and perhaps finding them could lead to borrowing a boat to leave. So, everyone unanimously decided to seek help from the indigenous residents. On the way to their destination, a filthy corpse suddenly appeared. Everyone was startled, and Jack immediately recognized that it was the corpse of his friend, the boatman. Jack then realized that his friend didn't accidentally fall due to drunkenness, but was swallowed by a giant python and then regurgitated. This is because pythons are very vulnerable while digesting food, and if disturbed, they will regurgitate their meal. Now, Big Mouth couldn't sit still, as this meant there was another giant python roaming around with an empty stomach. Big Beauty was also puzzled, as they were told there was only 1 giant python within a few kilometers. Jack explained that there was only one possibility for this situation. Out in the jungle, Jack told everyone that they needed to quickly head to the indigenous tribe, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable once it got dark. After another round of trekking, they were lucky enough to find the tribe before nightfall, but the scene before them left them dumbfounded. Smoke filled the tribe, and the corpse of a giant python, several dozen meters long, lay before them. Its body was covered in spikes, and its abdomen had been forcibly cut open. At the wound, a partially digested human corpse was clearly visible. This horrifying scene left everyone present shocked and terrified. It was even larger than the one seen before, clearly indicating that the indigenous people here had engaged in a fierce battle with the python. After successfully killing it, to avoid disaster, the entire village relocated elsewhere. Originally hoping to get help from the indigenous people, it was now impossible, so they had to rely on themselves, using available materials on site to build a raft and leave the place. Fortunately, there were enough materials that could be directly dismantled and used, assembled in a row and tightly bound together to construct a sturdy raft. However, during the execution of the plan, Jack unexpectedly discovered a snake totem by the well, with a blood-stained orchid in its mouth. From this it was inferred that the python could grow to such a massive size. It was because the python consumed the blood orchid that it was given endless vitality and growth ability. The effects of the blood orchid were beyond imagination, which made Jack very excited and strengthened his resolve to find the blood orchid. He also speculated that the blood orchid must be growing nearby, and suggested everyone go pick it now. However, suddenly, Gore firmly opposed the idea, as 2 lives had already been lost before. He didn't want to risk entering the jungle again, in case they ran into the giant python, which would be the end of him. However, everyone ignored Jack's persuasion. Seeing Jack being so stubborn, Sam couldn't stand it anymore and had to reveal the truth. Was thinking of expedition? You were thinking of your career. Everyone sighed upon hearing this. Jack was furious and harshly rebuked Sam. Now, my assistant. I don't need to consult you. In the end, Jack was at a loss. Although he was very unwilling in his heart, he had no choice but to walk away silently. He always had ulterior motives. When he was about to make a call for help, Jack suddenly appeared and stopped him. Jack told Old Black not to call for help, just to have everyone follow along to search for the snow orchid. Jack tried to persuade Old Black that it wouldn't be too late to call for help after the expedition was over. But Old Black, driven by a strong will to survive, was only thinking about staying alive and insisted on making the call for help, not caring about the snow orchid anymore. Unexpectedly, the deranged Jack released a poisonous spider to bite Old Black. For a second, Old Black was paralyzed all over and couldn't move. Meanwhile, Jack remained calm as if nothing had happened, preparing to leave with the supplies without caring whether Old Black lived or died. Outside, the others were still busy with their tasks, bustling with activity. Jack swaggered over to the group and with a straight face, lied that Old Black wasn't feeling well and needed to rest for a while, suggesting they call him when they were ready to leave. But Sam wasn't so easily fooled. He noticed something unusual in Jack's eyes, so he quickly turned around to find Old Black. As soon as he entered the room, he saw Old Black collapsed on the ground, staring blankly like a piece of wood, unable to speak. Being observant, he quickly noticed the bite wound on Old Black, and his heart skipped a beat. He immediately understood that this must be Jack's doing. However, he was unaware that a giant python had suddenly appeared on the beam above, quietly approaching him. Fortunately, Sam was in a hurry to run out and confront Jack, thus avoiding the danger. Then Sam found Jack and loudly questioned him about what despicable thing he had done to Old Black. Jack sensed that his actions were about to be exposed. His small hand quietly reached for the gun at his waist, while he glanced at the pitiful Old Black, who was being eyed by the menacing python, seeing it as an easy feast. Old Black was extremely terrified inside, yet powerless to call for help, and could only let the python have its way. When everyone heard the commotion inside the house, they hurried over to see what was happening, while Jack slipped away alone with his bag. When they reached the cabin, they were all scared out of their wits by the scene before them. Old Black had been devoured by the python, leaving not a trace behind. Brother Chang, being someone who has seen the world, immediately recognized the situation and quickly shouted for everyone to evacuate. Then he set the house on fire, hoping to burn the python to death. By the time they stumbled and crawled to the riverbank, ready to escape on the bamboo raft, they discovered that Jack had already stolen the raft and gone off to find Juelanhua on his own. That greedy guy will get his comeuppance sooner or later. Everyone watched helplessly as the thatched house burned fiercely, on the verge of tears. They had no materials left to build a boat, so they had to find a way to get the bamboo raft back in order to leave the jungle alive. Just when everyone was at a loss, fortunately, Sam knew the approximate location of the Edelweiss and Jack's route. So, the group decided to take a shortcut and once again plunged into the perilous jungle. They planned to intercept Jack downstream and take back the bamboo raft. However, they hadn't gone far when they heard the hissing of pythons around them. No matter which way they ran, they felt the pythons were slithering nearby, which really frightened everyone. Just as they were in a panic, an accident happened, and they all fell into a pitch-black cave. Water in the cave. Suddenly, the python's terrifying sound echoed again, scaring everyone into a panic. Searching for an exit, Xiaohei, who was at the back, got separated from the group. Fortunately, Zhang Mao found Xiaohei's young heart just in time, which made him feel a bit more at ease. The two of them didn't dare to linger any longer and hurriedly searched for an exit to leave. They didn't notice that a snake in the water had quietly approached. Just as they were cautiously feeling their way forward, Zhang Mao unfortunately fell into the underground river.
Although Chang Mao tried to find a way to escape, no matter how he struggled underwater, he couldn't find the original opening. Meanwhile, the hungry giant snake didn't have the patience to wait for him to find an exit and swallowed Chang Mao in one gulp. Xiao He saw the flashlight floating up, his heart skipped a beat, and he understood everything. Terrified, he turned around and ran. After relentless efforts, Chang and his two companions finally found the exit. However, when Chang returned to look for Chang Mao and Xiao He only saw the flashlight and the river water stained red, and he realized that they had met with misfortune. Given that it was not safe to stay there for long, Chang quickly suppressed his grief. Sam and Gaia hurriedly crawled towards the cave exit. But when they were halfway there, they heard Xiao He's cries for help. Surprisingly, Xiao He had actually led the giant python over. Everyone was scared out of their wits and quickly sped up, scrambling and crawling to escape the cave. Unfortunately, Xiao He wasn't so lucky. It got stuck because of the troublesome backpack and couldn't move. In a critical moment, the three of them worked together and managed to pull Xiao He out just a second before the giant python could bite. As the giant python opened its gaping mouth and lunged forward, everyone else was terrified, screaming in fear. Unexpectedly, Sam, who was usually weak, displayed incredible courage and strength, slicing the giant python into two with a single stroke. Xiao Mei's bravery immediately earned Xiao He's admiration, but just as he continued to flatter her, another python appeared. Seeing Xiao He being carried away by the python, the group quickly chased after it. But when they found Xiao He, it was tightly coiled around a tree by the python. In the critical moment, Da Zhuang decisively took out a dagger and struck the python's neck. After Xiao Mei performed CPR, Xiao He was successfully revived. Meanwhile, Jack finally arrived near the Man River, and using the detailed markings on the map, eventually found the extremely rare immortal flower. At this moment, Da Zhuang and his group also arrived here. To survive and escape this dangerous jungle, they only wanted to secretly take back this magical artifact. But before they could celebrate, Jack suddenly appeared with a handgun, and his ruthless approach made everyone feel angry. Da Zhuang took out a dagger, intending to fight back, but Jack shot him in the arm. Plus, they were forced to follow Jack's orders, but when they arrived here, the scene before them shocked everyone. It turned out that the blood orchid was growing on a tongue. No wonder Jack didn't act himself. To be on the safe side, Jack not only knocked out Da Zhuang, but also forced He Mei to tie up Xiao He. Then he threw a backpack to Xiao Mei, deciding to make her pick the blood orchid herself. Jack got the backpack, and before he could celebrate, he was knocked to the ground by a punch from the awakened Da Zhuang, and the blood orchid fell down as well. However, Da Zhuang's punch did not harm him, and Jack counterattacked again, just as he was about to deal a fatal blow to Da Zhuang. At that moment, he saw the backpack about to fall into the snake pit. So Jack immediately pushed Da Zhuang aside and quickly went down to retrieve the backpack. However, when he tried to climb back up, he was unexpectedly bitten by the venomous spider he had been carrying, causing his whole body to become stiff and uncontrollable. The blood orchid he had gone to great lengths to obtain also fell into the snake pit. Da Zhuang reached out his hand, still wanting to save Jack, but he ultimately paid a heavy price for his actions. However, things were not looking good for Xiao Mei. Just as she was climbing, she didn't expect her ankle to get tangled in the vines. As the wood continued to loosen, Xiao Mei fell down as well. Critical moment, Xiao Mei grabbed the vines and desperately climbed up, but the python didn't want to give her a chance to escape. Just as Da Zhuang and the others pulled Xiao Mei onto the shore, a giant python followed them up. The entire snake nest was instantly covered by a mudslide, and after enduring numerous dangers, they finally showed a long-lost smile on their faces. Originally, an 8-member expedition team, only 4 survived in the end. They happily paddled the bamboo raft, once again heading towards a brand new life. Alright, today's story ends here. Thank you all for your likes and following us. See you next time.